Marriage being a daily choice is one of the deepest truths no one prepares you for. People imagine love as something automatic, something that continues on its own once you've found the right person. But in reality, love is not maintenance free. It's not self sustaining. It doesn't grow just because two people said, I do. Every day, consciously or unconsciously, you make choices that either strengthen or weaken your marriage. You choose whether to be patient or reactive, whether to communicate or shut down, whether to appreciate or criticize, whether to understand or judge. These small decisions are the building blocks of a strong marriage or the beginning of a broken one. Falling in love is easy. Anyone can do it. Staying in love is where the real work begins, and that work is hidden in the everyday moments that seem ordinary but actually shape the future of the relationship. When you wake up next to the same person year after year, you experience all versions of them. The tired version, the stressed version, the irritated version, the insecure version, and they will see all versions of you too. Marriage demands that you continue choosing each other even when the moment isn't romantic, even when you're annoyed, even when life feels heavy. It means choosing to stay when it's easier to withdraw, choosing to talk when silence feels safer, choosing to forgive when the ego wants to hold a grudge. These tiny, unglamorous choices are what make or break the bond. That's why marriage isn't something you complete. It's something you maintain. Just like a garden, love grows where you water it, and it withers where you neglect it. There will be days when you don't feel the same intensity of love you once did, and that's normal. Feelings fluctuate because life isn't static. Work, stress, financial pressure, family issues, exhaustion, these things can dampen emotions. But commitment is what carries you through those dips. Choosing your partner daily means showing up even when you're not at your best. It means offering grace when they're overwhelmed, giving support when they're vulnerable, and reminding yourself that you're on the same team. You don't abandon the relationship just because the season is tough. Just like a home needs ongoing upkeep, so does a marriage. If you stop choosing your partner, little cracks form. Cracks that eventually turn into distance, resentment, or emotional disconnection. Choosing your partner daily also means continuing the behaviors that made them fall in love with you in the first place. Many relationships fail because people stop doing the small things they used to do. They stop listening deeply, stop showing affection, stop giving compliments, stop expressing gratitude. But those simple gestures matter more in marriage than they ever did in dating. When you consciously choose love, you keep the relationship alive. When you take your partner for granted, love starts to fade. In marriage, the truth is simple but powerful. You don't stay in love by accident, you stay in love by choice. Every day, in your words, your actions, your patience, and your effort, you choose whether you're building something strong or letting something beautiful slowly fall apart. When people talk about love, they usually focus on the feelings, the excitement, the butterflies, the spark that lights up every moment in the beginning. But what no one tells you is that feelings change. They naturally rise and fall with the seasons of life. What keeps a marriage strong isn't those early emotions. It's the actions you choose long after the spark fades. In the early stages, attraction feels effortless because everything is new. You're discovering each other, giving attention freely, making time without thinking, expressing affection without hesitation. But once life settles in, responsibilities, stress, routines, the excitement calms, and this is where many couples feel confused. They think something is wrong just because they don't feel the same intensity anymore. But nothing is wrong. This is simply the part where love shifts from emotion to intention. Actions become the fuel that keeps a marriage alive. Compliments matter more than ever because they remind your partner they're still seen, still appreciated, still valued. Small gestures like checking on their day, showing affection, planning time together, or even doing chores without them asking. These are the things that recreate connection every single day. It's not the big romantic gestures once a year that save a marriage. It's the tiny, consistent efforts you make every day. Even something as simple as looking them in the eyes when they talk can create intimacy. When feelings fade, actions rebuild the bond and keep it alive. Many people make the mistake of assuming that if the feelings dip, the relationship is dying. They panic, withdraw, or become distant. But feelings respond to effort, love grows where you invest, and decays where you neglect. You cannot stop putting effort into your marriage and expect passion to magically stay alive. All healthy relationships require maintenance, not because they're weak, but because they're important. Anything valuable in life needs attention. Marriage is no different. You water it with actions and it grows. You starve it with indifference and it dries up. Actions also create emotional safety, something even stronger than excitement. When your partner knows they can rely on you, emotionally, mentally, and physically, it builds trust that feelings alone could never deliver. When you show consistency, kindness, patience, and support, your spouse feels secure. And out of that security, deeper love forms. It becomes love that isn't dependent on mood or circumstance. It becomes love that is chosen and nurtured. And here's the truth almost everyone overlooks. The actions you choose during difficult moments matter more than the actions during happy ones. When you stay calm instead of exploding, when you listen instead of dismissing, when you choose to repair instead of withdraw, those decisions create a foundation so solid that no temporary emotional dip can destroy it. At the end of the day, marriage thrives not because two people feel in love every second, but because they act in love even when it's hard. Feelings come and go, but actions keep love alive, protect it, and help it grow into something deeper than anything you felt in the beginning. Communication is one of the most misunderstood elements of marriage because people confuse talking with connecting. Anyone can talk, anyone can argue, anyone can speak their mind. But true communication, the kind that strengthens a marriage, requires understanding, empathy, patience, and emotional intelligence. It's not just about expressing your point, it's about making sure your partner feels heard, valued, and safe sharing their truth with you. Many marriages fall apart not because of a lack of love, but because of a lack of understanding. When two people stop trying to understand each other, the relationship slowly drifts into silence, frustration, or resentment. Real communication isn't about winning arguments. Marriage isn't a courtroom where one person needs to be right and the other needs to be wrong. When you fight to win, your marriage loses. True communication is working together against the problem instead of working against each other. It's shifting the mindset from me versus you to us versus the issue. That change alone transforms the way a couple speaks to each other. Instead of blaming, they start discussing. Instead of attacking, they start expressing. Instead of shutting down, they start reaching out. And that shift creates safety, a place where both partners can be honest without fear of judgment or punishment. Listening is another forgotten part of communication. Most people listen to reply, not to understand. They wait for their turn to speak. They defend themselves before they even hear the full story. They focus on correcting the details instead of acknowledging the emotions. But listening with empathy changes everything. It means hearing the feelings behind the words. It means paying attention to what your partner is trying to express, even if they struggle to say it perfectly. It means trying to understand their perspective even when you don't agree with it. When a person feels truly heard, their anger softens, their defenses lower, and connection becomes possible again. Communication also requires vulnerability. Many people grow up learning to hide their emotions, pretend they're fine, or keep their pain to themselves. But marriage demands openness. You cannot fix what you refuse to reveal. You cannot heal what you refuse to talk about. When you share your fears, your insecurities, your needs, and your stresses with your partner, you create intimacy that goes beyond physical attraction. You create a bond built on honesty and trust. And when your partner responds with understanding rather than criticism, you build emotional closeness that makes the relationship unbreakable. And perhaps the most important part of communication is learning how to speak during conflict. When emotions rise, words can easily become weapons. A moment of anger can create wounds that take years to heal. That's why strong couples learn to pause before responding. They learn to calm down before continuing the conversation. They learn to use "I feel" instead of "you always." They learn to express their emotions without shaming, blaming, or disrespecting each other. Communication is not about perfection, but about intention. It's about trying, learning, improving, and choosing to stay connected even in difficult moments. In marriage, communication is the lifeline. When you understand each other, you grow closer. When you stop understanding, you drift apart. The truth no one tells you is that communication is not just a skill. It's a commitment, a daily practice that keeps love alive, trust strong, and connection unbreakable. One of the biggest truths about marriage that no one tells you is that it will expose parts of you that you didn't even know existed. When you live with someone day after day, share space, share responsibilities, share stress, and share your rawest moments, you cannot hide behind the polished version of yourself you once presented while dating. Marriage has a way of bringing your insecurities, your flaws, your childhood wounds, your fears, and your ego to the surface. Not because your partner brings out the worst in you, but because true closeness reveals what you've always carried inside. It is the one relationship where your emotional patterns will be challenged, where your patience will be tested, and where your character will be shaped. And this exposure is not meant to break you, it's meant to grow you. There will be moments when your partner unintentionally triggers something in you, and you'll react in ways that surprise even yourself. You may become defensive, overly emotional, or withdrawn without fully understanding why. But marriage teaches you to look inward instead of outward. It forces you to question your reactions. Why did that upset me so much? Why did I feel ignored? Why did I feel disrespected? Most of these reactions come from unresolved parts of you, not from your partner's intention. This is why marriage becomes a mirror. It reflects your strengths, but it also reflects your unresolved weaknesses. And often facing those weaknesses is uncomfortable. Yet, this is where the real growth happens. The truth is, marriage requires emotional maturity. You cannot rely on habits of anger, silent treatment, blame, or avoidance if you want a healthy relationship. You learn to communicate instead of exploding. You learn to pause instead of reacting impulsively. You learn to apologize not because you're wrong every time, but because the relationship is more important than the ego. You learn that love isn't just about affection and passion. It's about discipline, patience, self-awareness, and accountability. Because every time you refuse to face your flaws, the relationship suffers. But every time you confront them, the relationship strengthens. The growth marriage demands isn't always pleasant. It will force you to deal with your pride, your stubbornness, your fears of vulnerability, your desire to always be right, or your tendency to shut down when things get tough. It will challenge the beliefs you learned growing up. beliefs about gender roles, communication, money, conflict, or love. Marriage doesn't allow you to stay who you were when you entered it. It pushes you into becoming someone better, someone more compassionate, someone more understanding, someone more emotionally present. And here's the beautiful part. When both partners commit to that growth, the relationship becomes an unbreakable bond. You start understanding each other on a deeper level. You see each other's wounds and choose to heal together instead of hurting each other. You develop a level of intimacy that only comes from facing challenges hand in hand. The marriage becomes not just a commitment, but a journey of becoming the best version of yourself through the person standing beside you. The truth no one tells you is that marriage will reveal you, but it will also refine you. If you allow it, marriage can shape you into someone wiser, kinder, stronger, and more emotionally grounded than you ever thought possible. One of the most misunderstood realities of marriage is that it is almost never a perfect 50-50 balance. People grow up believing that both partners must always give equally, that everything should be fair and evenly split, and that a healthy marriage means both people carry the same weight at the same time. But real life doesn't work like that. Real relationships exist in seasons, and every season demands something different from each partner. Sometimes one person will be stronger, more patient, more emotionally available, or more capable of carrying responsibilities. And sometimes the roles will reverse. A successful marriage isn't built on constant equality. It's built on constant support. It's built on understanding that when your partner is struggling, you step up, and when you're struggling, they step up. That flexibility, that willingness to shift and adapt is what keeps a marriage stable and loving. There will be times when your partner is overwhelmed, maybe with work, family, stress, financial pressure, or personal battles you can't see from the outside. In those moments, expecting them to give their 50% is not love. It's pressure. It's unrealistic. Strong couples recognize that sometimes one partner may only have 20% to give, and the other will need to offer the remaining 80%. And this isn't a burden, it's a privilege. It's a moment where you get to support the person you love. It's a chance to protect the relationship when the other person can't do it alone. And when the time comes, the roles naturally shift, because love has a way of balancing itself out when both people are committed. The problem in many marriages is not that one partner gives more, it's that they keep score. They track who did what, who sacrificed more, who apologized first, who worked harder, who contributed more income, who made more compromises. But marriage is not a competition. Keeping score destroys connection because it turns partners into opponents. The healthiest marriages are the ones where both people give, without constantly calculating what they're getting in return. They trust that love will come back to them, not always immediately, but consistently over time. Caring more for your partner in a tough season doesn't make you weak or foolish. It makes you loyal. It shows that you value the relationship beyond temporary circumstances. It shows that you understand the bigger picture, that you and your partner are on the same team and sometimes teammates carry each other. A marriage built on rigid expectations will eventually break under pressure. But a marriage built on compassion and flexibility will survive storms that others can't. And here's the truth that no one talks about. The seasons of imbalance are what create the deepest intimacy. When you support your partner through their low moments, you build trust that can't be formed during happy days. You show them they're safe with you, that their flaws, fears, or struggles won't push you away. You show them that your commitment is real. In the long run, marriage becomes balanced not because every day is equal, but because the overall story is full of moments where both partners stepped up when the other needed it most. The truth is simple. Strong marriages don't demand perfect balance. They thrive on unconditional support. It's not about splitting everything 50-50. It's about giving 100% to the relationship, together, in whatever way each season requires. One of the most painful truths about marriage that people rarely admit is that romance doesn't disappear on its own. It doesn't fade because two people got older or busier or more comfortable. It fades because one or both partners stop nurturing it. They stop doing the small things that once made the relationship feel alive. They stop giving compliments, stop initiating affection, stop planning time together, stop flirting, stop expressing appreciation. Slowly, without even realizing it, they replace intentional effort with routine, presence with distraction, and passion with complacency. But romance isn't a natural force that sustains itself. It's a garden. If you don't water it, it will eventually die. And when couples begin to believe that romance should survive without effort, that's when emotional distance starts forming. In the beginning, romance feels effortless because love is new. You pay attention. You notice everything. You go out of your way to impress and connect. You're intentional with your words, your time, and your energy. But after marriage, life gets busy. Work, bills, stress, responsibilities, children. All of these things take up space in your mind. And without realizing it, you start giving your partner your leftovers instead of your best. You stop noticing the small things. You stop creating moments. You stop prioritizing connection. And the tragedy is that many couples interpret this change as, we fell out of love, when in reality they simply stopped feeding the love they had. The truth no one tells you is that romance is not about big, dramatic gestures. It's not about expensive gifts or grand surprises. It's about consistency. Tiny moments that remind your partner they matter. Holding hands. Giving a warm hug after a long day. Leaving a small note. Sending an unexpected text. Planning a simple date. Looking into their eyes when they talk. These actions might seem small, but they create emotional closeness. They make your partner feel loved without needing a special occasion. The couples who keep romance alive are not the ones who do big gestures once a year. They are the ones who do small gestures every single day. Neglect, on the other hand, is silent but powerful. It creeps in slowly. You don't wake up one morning thinking, I'm going to neglect my partner. It happens when you assume they'll always be there. It happens when you think they don't need compliments anymore. It happens when you believe they already know how you feel, so you don't express it. It happens when you get too comfortable and stop trying. And without any intentional harm, the relationship loses its spark. Not because love died, but because effort did. Rebuilding romance is possible, but it requires humility and intention. It requires acknowledging the distance, understanding where the connection faded, and actively choosing to bring back the behaviors that once made the relationship feel alive. Romance doesn't return by waiting for it. You create it by showing up differently, by choosing to be loving even when you're tired, choosing to be affectionate even when you're stressed, choosing to make time even when life feels full. The truth is simple but powerful. Romance is not magic, it's maintenance. And the couples who remain deeply in love after 10, 20, or 40 years are not lucky. They are intentional. They choose every day to do the things that keep the flame alive. They don't let love fade into routine. They protect it through effort, attention, and presence. Because in marriage, romance doesn't die naturally. It only dies when you stop choosing to keep it alive.